What is going on, guys? Happy Black History Month. I know I forgot to say that a couple videos back, but we are in the month of February, and I thought that for Black History Month, I was going to go over a topic that in some ways is very controversial, so I may get a lot of people who disagree with me on this topic, but some of you might also agree with me after you hear what I have to say. This video is particularly going to be focusing on race swapping in regards to mostly comic book characters when it comes to live action adaptations, as well as older cartoon characters. Now, if you're like me, you thought that the Velma series was dog water. It is. I don't care if I haven't watched more than 2 episodes. I know how terrible it is. Now, personally, my opinion, and you can completely disagree. It's fine if you disagree with me. I don't care. In my personal opinion, when you have pre-established characters who were portrayed a particular way in types of media, I would have to argue that you should leave those characters the way that they are. And if you're going to make something using that source material, you either roll with the original design of the characters or you make new characters who will stand in for them. Because for me, race swapping for the sake of representing a community of people, in some ways, in my opinion, it's kind of lazy, and it sort of does a disservice to the minority group. And here's why I believe that. For me, the reason why I think that people who go around yelling, why don't we have a black Superman? It takes away from all of the old DC black superheroes. You know, it takes away, like, you know, their time to shine. Why do we need a black Superman? And look, my personal opinion on this is, like, if you want a black Superman, that's fine. There are black Supermen. There's Val-Zod and there's Calvin Ellis, who are both, you know, Kryptonians, but they present as black, you know, having been the way that they were designed. They're not bad characters necessarily, but in my opinion, those black Supermen are carbon copies of Clark Kent. And I feel like what a good number of people are looking for is a black Clark Kent, not necessarily a black Superman. When it comes to race swapping in TV shows, movies, or cartoons, there is no need to bring in the mystery crew for this Velma show if all you're going to do is race swap all of these characters except Fred, so Fred can be the butt end of everybody's joke because he's a white dude, and we all know how that goes. If you were going to give Velma a show where you were going to race swap her, you were going to change up her whole personality and everything, just make it her show and give her characters who are perfect, like, representations for those minority groups. Because for me, I think minority groups appreciate it more when we have original characters instead of characters who were pre-established and tweaked a little bit to appeal to us. For me, I feel like in some ways that can be viewed as disrespectful and lazy, because you don't want to put in any effort to make a character that can properly resonate with us and connect with us. I feel a lot more represented as a black man watching characters like Steel. You probably don't know who that is, do you? Steel, if you actually look at it, is the first black Superman. Some people might say, oh man, what about Calvin Ellis? What about Val-Zod? What about those guys? No, Steel is a character that was written in the early 1990s, and he was technically the first black Superman. Dr. John Henry Irons is his real name. And for me, if there's ever going to be a live action version of a black Superman, I don't want alternate versions of the iconic Kryptonian. We have a bit of trouble even keeping Henry Cavill as Superman at the moment, so why are we going to make alternate versions of a character that we can barely keep in the live action scene? If we are going to get a black Superman, I want it to be Steel. Why? Because John Henry Irons is an original black character who takes up you could say he takes on the mantle of Superman, but he doesn't necessarily take his place as Superman. That's why he's called Steel. Both Calvin Ellis and Val-Zod take the name Superman. So for me, I feel like even if you look at the way their costumes are designed, if you look at the way that they wear the S's and the capes and everything, I would argue that Steel is a more original character because he's his own character. He's not an alternate version of Clark Kent. Plus, one of the unique things that I love about John Henry Irons, as it pertains to him being Steel, is that he's even more representative of black people, and here's why. Do you know what's really, really cool about Dr. John Henry Irons' name? He is named after a black folk hero named John Henry, who served as a symbol of strength and determination. What better way to represent the black community than have a character who properly pays homage to something that black people can look up to? Plus, he has a hammer, which symbolizes the hammer that John Henry used in his folktale to fight a machine that was trying to take his job. That is a story that resonates with me even more, and that would make me feel even more represented by a character like Steel, for me personally. Now, again, like I said, you can have a different opinion, and that's perfectly fine. But for me, when people talk about, hey, why don't we have more black superheroes? I agree 100%. We should have more black superheroes in the live action scene. We should have more representation in other forms, in other genres of TV shows and movies. That stuff is important to me. We can do it without race swapping characters. We don't need to race swap characters to feel represented. We can make original characters, original shows. You know, there are so many, like not so many, but there are a good number of black shows that are doing a proper job of showing us the representation that black people deserve and other people of color. So for me, as it pertains to minority groups, I think there are situations where, you know, race swapping necessarily isn't such a bad thing, and then there are other instances where it feels forced. Supergirl, for instance. You take the guy who played Jimmy Olsen. Now, I do think that the guy who played Jimmy Olsen on that Supergirl show probably could have been a good Dr. John Henry Irons, and he might have done really good playing his Steel. I'm not saying we shouldn't have had a black character in the show. I'm simply saying he could have played another character who would have added even more to the show. Someone like a Steel would have been cool as an addition to the Supergirl crew in that TV show. Another situation that I would have liked was, personally, I hated the second season of Batwoman, and here's why. Batwoman, or Kate Kane, as she is originally was written, Batwoman was made, written as an open gay woman, and she was made for LGBTQ plus representation. Now, I cannot speak for the LGBTQ plus community, as I am not a member of that community. However, I will say that I was very annoyed when she was replaced by Ryan Wilder. I think it's Ryan Wilder. I think her last name is Wilder. But Ryan Wilder is the new Batwoman who takes up her mantle, and she ends up becoming the new Batwoman. And the focus of the show is always on the fact that she's a black woman. And now my problem is what Batwoman was originally designed for. Certain characters are designed for representation, and Batwoman was made for LGBTQ plus representation. What it feels like to me is that CW cared more about appealing to a minority group than actually trying to represent a minority group. And for me, that type of performative activism is just something that doesn't sit well with me. I don't like performative activism. It's fake. It lets me know who my allies are and who my allies aren't. So for me, if they were going to get a new person to play Batwoman, they should have recasted the role that Ruby Rose originally played and gotten somebody else. I think I can't remember her name at the moment, but she played Negasonic Teenage Warhead in Deadpool. I think she would have been perfect for playing Kate Kane. I think she would have been perfect for that role, honestly. You know, she's of the LGBTQ plus community, and she would have been able to fit the appearance, and it still would have worked for the show had they had to recast the role instead. I feel like recasting would have been a better idea for them to do that, instead of throwing in a black character to say, oh my gosh, we lost our LGBTQ plus representation, let's find another minority group to appeal to because we have to look inclusive. Some of these organizations and corporations care more about looking inclusive rather than being inclusive, and that is why I am not a huge fan of race swapping. But those who say oh my gosh, man, we don't have many black superheroes. We do. You probably just don't care about those black superheroes. We can talk about how great Miles Morales is as a black Spider-Man, but that's why I love Miles Morales, because he's not a black Peter Parker. He's his own character. He has his own background. He has his own unique set of friends and his own unique set of skills. He's a different character, maybe not too different from the original Spider-Man, but different enough to the point where, hey, I like this character and I feel represented. For me, when we talk about black superheroes, for instance, I can name so many off the top of my head that I don't feel like have gotten the proper representation that they deserve. Vixen, for instance. Vixen is literally like the female version of Beast Boy. She can gain the abilities of all the animals on the planet. Icon, who is literally has powers that are so close to that of Superman. There's Mr. Terrific, Dr. Voodoo. There's Static Shock, who, my goodness, was one of the best cartoons that I ever watched when I was a kid. Like, there are so many great black superheroes who we can like talk about and have a conversation about whether they should be in live action adaptations. Because for me, having those original black characters and having them brought out and properly like plastered all over social media, and people saying we need a live action version of this character, I'm gonna stand right with you, because I feel that there's more of a connection with that character than with a black version of a pre-established character. If all we do is piggyback off of a white character, it makes it seem like as black characters we can't stand on our own. And that's clearly not true, because there are many popular black characters and black comic book characters and black fictional characters in television and movies that sit well with us and that have been able to stand on their own. You know, I just named off a good number of black characters who, in my opinion, could stand on their own if written right, if portrayed correctly by the right actor. And for me, those characters could be amazing. I would love to see a Static Shock movie. I would love to see a movie about Steel. Steel has been properly designed for black representation, just given his name and given how he is drawn and how he was, made to fight with his hammer and everything. Steel would be a proper, live action adaptation for a black Superman. So me, before we even think about getting a black Kryptonian in particular, I want to see this character be like the first black live action Superman. That is something that I want to see. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I might do something like this again. For me personally, I love talking about race on my channel. I'm not reluctant to speak about it. I've done many videos pertaining to the topic, and for me, like, this is something that I feel like we should have a conversation about, especially when it comes to like children. Children of minority groups should feel represented in all forms of media, and my opinion is that it should be done properly. If you want to represent groups of people and you want to properly like make a character who represent a minority group, you should put in the work to make sure that that character is original and well established and well written to properly represent that character. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and subscribe if you are new to the channel. I will see you all in the next one. 2 cents out.